Hi, this is Jessica. I wanted to check in with you midway through your third week. I just finished drafting the midterm exam. There's lots of questions, but I think they're pretty straightforward. But I wanted to just say hello, so here we go. So, how's it going so far? Are you realizing there's lots of reading? There sure is. We're going to try and fix that in future quarters, but for this quarter, we can't really avoid it. Hopefully, you'll enjoy the book. I think it is a fun book. It's got good stories. I think it connects with you pretty easily. Um, Feel free to give me suggestions for ways that you can feel connected. It seemed like the last discussion board, there was a lot of interaction, and I think that was helpful. Maybe we can do more of those. I'll take any suggestions you have. Have you tried a study group, maybe by Skype or just chatting with somebody by phone? If you like, you can post your contact information on a discussion board and connect with other students. I'd be happy to facilitate that. It's just nice to connect with people and not feel so isolated. So you may have noticed by now, and I don't know if the book used this term or not, but you're learning black letter law. That is law that is accepted most of the country, and this is kind of the basics of maybe your first year of law school. Actually, the book goes beyond that. It goes into your second and third year of law school. Learning this information will really help you um, make decisions and act ethically and legally in your future careers. I think it's interesting information. So I know sometimes in an online class you miss hearing war stories. So here's some war stories. I was a personal injury attorney for a short time. I had my own law firm in 2008 and 2009. I somehow managed to balance in addition to teaching. And I did some negligence law. And I realized why there are so many negligence attorneys out there. Because the money is manna from heaven. It is not hard to make money doing negligence. Essentially, what you do is you negotiate with insurance companies and you get settlements. Very, very few cases actually go to trial. And if you get a third of the settlement for basically having your paralegal work up the case, get the medical records, get everything else, it's really a highly paid field, which explains why there are TV commercials at noon as you watch, soap operas, etc. So negligence obviously has to do with people acting unreasonably. Personal injury or auto accidents is a huge component of negligence law. I can tell you about one case I had. I had a situation where a teacher um, was pushed by a student who had Asperger's syndrome, and she fell and broke her wrist. Now, um, it so happened that the student was actually the son of another teacher, and that other teacher failed to tell her that her son had a history of violence that stretched back 3 or 4 school years. So, had this teacher been warned, she probably would not have acted the way she did with that student. She, asked him to do something and kind of pushed him a little bit, not literally, but figuratively, and the student overreacted. So what I had to do was I had to research in Westlaw. They have a database called Verdicts and Settlements, and I had to look up and say, well, what is a broken wrist worth in King County? I had to figure out how much it was worth. There's the medical bills, there is the pain and suffering, which is kind of a general intangible amount that is in addition to the medical bills. In practical reality, the way the settlement is paid out is usually a third to the attorney, a third goes to medical bills, and a third goes to pain and suffering. So um, it's kind of interesting, actually. Plaintiff negligence attorneys, they end up um, taking hard copy receipts, like if you have a medical bill, x-rays, medicine, etc. You take those hard copy receipts, those are called special damages, and you multiply them times 8, and you make your initial demand from that. And then the demand is reduced through negotiations with the insurance company, etc., until usually it's roughly 3 and 4 times the amount of the hard receipts. So for that reason, if you're ever in a car accident, you really need to keep track of your receipts, and you also need to write out your experience on a daily basis, how the pain keeps you from doing things that you would normally do. That's just a chronicle or a diary of the impact of the accident in your life. Paralegals are a huge part of that kind of a practice. They tend to do pretty much everything. The personal injury attorney just needs to have some experience dealing with insurance companies, and I think it's great fun. In the case I just talked about, it was the homeowner's insurance that furnished the settlement amount on behalf the homeowner's insurance of the child's parents, the child with Asperger's parents. So the parents, homeowners, offered money, a good sum of money, to compensate the teacher. And so all I really had to do was draft a complaint, or actually I think I just drafted a demand letter. And the demand letter was enough to get an offer from the insurance company that was sufficient. By the way, having an attorney involved in your car accident will often raise your offer by at least a third. So I would really recommend it. Probably more than a third, which makes it worthwhile to see an attorney if you have any kind of physical injury at all. So now I'll talk about my experience with business torts. So, well, attorneys largely divide themselves into plaintiffs versus defense attorneys. At a certain level, when you're dealing with breach of contract, it doesn't matter whether you're a plaintiff attorney or a defense attorney, because whether you're a plaintiff or a defendant just depends upon who gets to the courthouse first. So in business torts, it's usually breach of a complicated contract. For example, I had a case that involved Hughes Aircraft making computer parts and selling them to Qualcomm, but Qualcomm said they weren't very good computer parts. The contract happened to be governed by the UCC, but interestingly, the lawyers in the case kind of ignored the UCC, I think because a lot of lawyers don't like the UCC. They find it kind of complicated to work with. I personally love the UCC because the UCC sale of goods chapter is very organized, it's neat, it makes a lot of sense, it's very thoughtful. But in that case, we just basically defended, saying that Qualcomm didn't have a sufficient order for the number of parts that they said they did. We also claimed that the parts were quality, and we had a variety of defenses. This was a trial that took place in San Diego. We put on the plaintiffs put on their part of the case. Qualcomm put on their case. It took 6 weeks for their case, and at the close of the 6 weeks, Hughes, my client, made a motion for directed verdict, kind of like saying, they put on their best case and they still don't have a case, Your Honor. Please let this case go away. And amazingly, we won. And that was a $22 million case that they spent all these attorney's fees on, and Qualcomm got nothing. That was a fantastic result for Hughes. And we had big parties and big dinners to celebrate. And as you might imagine, because Qualcomm could appeal that decision, there was a settlement before the appeal. So that's what often happens. If somebody has a right to appeal and they think they have a chance of actually winning on appeal, there may be a settlement to resolve the matter. We had a fair number of interference with contract cases, and we had a fair number of interference with prospective business relationships cases. So the difference is, obviously, if two parties have a contract with each other and a third party comes in and interferes, usually by saying negative things about one of the parties, or luring one of the parties to another contract, then there'll be a lawsuit for that. If it's merely interference with prospective business advantage, there is no contract, that's a tougher case to prove, but they're fun cases. Complex business litigation is very sophisticated. It's considered sexy in some sense of the word. It's high paying, and it's usually done at big firms out of big cities, which is what I did. I worked in Los Angeles. It was really cool. Of course, I had no life, and I had a sofa that turned into a bed in my office, and I literally had no life. Anyway, I don't know much about international law. The book has some good coverage there. I purposely didn't put many questions on the midterm about international law for that reason. Just consider this video a little hello and check in, and I hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Bye-bye.